I guess the bad news is that, at least according to the book of Revelation, there's only room in heaven for 144,000 white-robed people. But the good news, at least for Father John Paul and me, is that your odds of becoming a saint increase dramatically if you're a Dominican. There are a lot of Dominican saints. We even have our own annual All-Dominican Saints Day. Dominicans aren't saints just because they already have the white robes. It's also because one Dominican saint has inspired the next during our 800-year history. And, okay, maybe it's helped that we've had Dominicans in Rome lobbying for Dominican saints. Do you want to become a saint? Raise your hand if you want to become a saint. Oh, too late. I do. I want to, as the first letter of John says, see God as he is and become like him. I don't know what that means, but it's got to be pretty awesome, right? I want to live forever in great joy and liveliness. I want to be a companion to the saints who have gone before me, including friends, family, and Newman community members like the ones written in our book of remembrance. More immediately, I want to live ever more freely and joyfully in this life. That's the life of a saint. So they say. How do we attain this? How do we become saints? By offering us today's gospel story, the church implies that living the Beatitudes is the path to sainthood. The Beatitudes are a strange collection of sayings in the first place, and it's strange that they're set before us on the Feast of All Saints. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they who mourn, for they will be comforted. What does mourning have to do with becoming a saint? But some of it makes sense to me. Blessed are the meek and the merciful, the peacemakers and persecuted. These are people acting courageously to change the world. These Beatitudes sound like pretty good prescriptions for becoming a saint. They are ways to do justice, as our 50th Jubilee value of the month puts it, doing justice. One great doer of justice was Blessed Bartolomé de las Casas. Okay, he's not a full-blown saint yet, and he happens to be my Dominican brother, our Dominican brother, but he has a great story. Actually, he was a terrible person. He was a 15th century Spaniard who owned a plantation with indigenous slaves in Hispaniola, what we now call Haiti and the Dominican Republic. And all this as a priest. But he was moved to give up his plantation and slaves and join the Dominicans. At first, he wrote and preached in favor of African slaves instead of indigenous slaves. But he eventually saw that all slavery was wrong. He spent most of his life fighting slavery and was an early advocate for universal human rights. Perhaps his prayers will assist some of us in protecting human rights. Certainly at Thursday's Burke lecture, Professor Carter very provocatively revealed how the racist roots of our country still thrive and need to be healed by us. Speaking of racism, our Burundi Border Barrio project gives us many opportunities to walk the path of sainthood by walking with our sisters and brothers in very challenging and often unjust circumstances. Our Burundian brother Fabrice is certainly walking with courage in a country still reeling from the effects of colonialism. Perhaps you've already read, some of you, Valentine's post in the Student Spotlight section of our Catholic UCSD homepage, which includes these thoughts. I just realized I wrote hope page instead of homepage. That's pretty good, isn't it? So this is Valentine talking. Listening to Fabrice motivated me to rethink my priorities. Instead of focusing on myself and building my resume, I hope to make a greater effort to give what I can to my community and all those whom I can reach. I am looking forward to reaching out to those in Burundi to make them aware of one more person who is on their side, that cares about them and prays for them. Then there are these thoughts from Julie's staff musings post about Fabrice and Balboa Park's reflection pool, which includes these words: our path remains focused on allowing our best self to shine through as our reflection of God. Is my reflection to Fabrice, this is still Julie's reflection, is my reflection to Fabrice while visiting Burundi the same here in the United States? Is what I teach there the same as what I live here in the United States? What reflection pool does he see in me? Ripples, truth, shimmers of angst, or a pool of calm? All of these answers continue to be in development, and I remain grateful for the challenges of working in Burundi and the blessings of working alongside Burundians. Thank you, Julie. Doing justice means many things, and now more than ever, we understand that doing justice means caring for our environment. We care for the environment because it is God's creation and proclaims God's beauty. Because the earth isn't ours, but a gift to be passed on to future generations. And because the poor suffer greatly when we misuse the environment. Of course, St. Francis is the patron of care for the environment, and Pope Francis has borrowed his name and is calling on us all to do environmental justice. See, he's calling us right now. You saw him standing outside in front, didn't you, the Pope? One step along that path could be to attend today's workshop on the Pope's environmental teaching. We might even discover ways in which climate change is especially affecting our brothers and sisters in Burundi, on the border, and in the barrio. I discovered this week that there's at least one other patron saint of the environment. Anyone know who it is? Shout it out. Isidore? Is that true? Okay, I didn't come across her. Anybody else? I came across Katere Tekakwitha, the first native North American to be recognized as a saint. She was an Iroquois, and the Iroquois have a tradition of being deeply connected to the earth and of carefully managing natural resources. Perhaps this is why Katere's Iroquois name is Tekakwitha, which means one who places things in order. She was a lover of nature and often sought the voice of God in the woods. Is it time to create an environment beatitude? Something like, blessed are they who care for creation, for they will know the depths of the Creator's great care for them. If we live the Beatitudes together, maybe some of us will become patron saints of the environment. We could become the patron community of the environment. But really, living the Beatitudes and doing justice isn't, in the end, what will make us saints and bring us to the happiness of heaven. We need God for that, right? So while the Beatitudes are in one sense a kind of prescription for how to become a saint, they're even more a description of how God draws to himself not just those who do justice, but especially those who suffer from injustice. And that's the explanation for how those who are poor in spirit are blessed, how those who mourn are blessed, how those who hunger and thirst for righteousness are blessed. God turns everything upside down and draws the suffering to himself. Our robes aren't washed white by our own hands. They're washed white in the blood of the Lamb. God became one with the poor and suffering in order to turn the world's values upside down. Blessed are the poor in spirit, because they know their great need for God. And maybe that's the main reason there are so many Dominican saints. We Dominicans are weak, and many Dominican women and men have discovered their weakness and turned to God. So what the Beatitudes invite us to is to also care for our personal environment, to rely on God entirely, to change our personal climate so that we can heal the earth's. Pope Francis encourages a prophetically contemplative lifestyle, one capable of deep enjoyment, free of the obsession with consumption. He teaches that inner peace is closely related to care for ecology and for the common good, because lived out authentically, inner peace is reflected in a balanced lifestyle together with a capacity for wonder. Pope Francis wants us to live in freedom and joy. Again, Julie writes, is your reflection pool leaking or under repair? Does the reality of you in life match with your perception and match with what others perceive you to be? This is Julie still talking now. I find it helpful to listen more and talk less, then sit and be still to find my answers. They're beatitudes more than do-attitudes, a place where God draws us closer and closer to the beatific vision of God. Do you want to become a saint and live a life of joy and freedom, even now? Maybe we could all become saints together. 144,000 seems a little specific to be taken at face value. It's 12, the number of the tribes of Israel, so that already means everyone. 12 times 12 times 10 to the Trinitarian power. Let's acknowledge that we are poor in spirit, that we rely completely on God, so that together with the grace of God and the help of all the saints, we can proclaim a year of favor, do a month, a year, a lifetime of justice, and be in this moment, a peaceful reflection of God until we are beyond years and months and moments and see God face to face.